What did you want to talk about this morning, Juma?
I've had this topic, I've been thinking about this topic for a while and done some research in it. I want to talk about the creator professional versus the professional creator, the two parts to content success.
All right, let's say that again. The creator professional
versus the professional creator.
Professional creator. I wonder which one we are.
You'll find out. Believe it or not, two completely different things. Well, at least two different approaches to content success, and I'll define who we are when we get into it.
You want to go first, or am I going first?
All right, I'll go first. I'll start off by saying that the idea of creating content in different ways is something that is not necessarily a new thing, but it is about the two different parts that you could take to be a successful creator. And that advice usually comes in two buckets. The first bucket is build an audience first when you're going to create content. So you build this audience first and then sell to them. Or you can have a business, sell a product first, and then out of that, build your audience. And those are two distinct approaches when it comes to creating content. And I want to look at both. There isn't one right way to do it, but these are two distinct paths. And identifying which path you have to take will just change your whole approach and change your entire strategy as to how you're going to create content. And today we're going to explore that, like the expertise first path versus the content first path. And of course, by the end, you'll be able to define exactly which one you belong to and which lane you should take.
Expertise first or content first?
Yeah, expertise first or content first. So let's look at path number one, which is the expertise first creator, or who I like to call the creator professional. The creator professional. And so the concept behind somebody like that is that these are the people who are professionals before they are creators. They're professionals before they are creators. So they could run a business, they could be qualified, they could have a 9-to-5, but they're in a particular career, exercising their expertise before they become creators. And these people, they really aren't trying to be famous. They're trying to use content as a way to scale their business or build their personal brand. That's what they want to do.
Let me just play devil's advocate, just so that everybody's on the same page. When you say content, when you say creator, you're talking specifically about creating content on social media platform.
Right. So, yeah. So this is not a creative general. This is a content creator. So somebody who creates content on social media platforms. Although you could have somebody who's a creative that then creates content about being creative.
Of course.
I end up with a lot of C's there. But the idea is that they are somebody who is creating content for social media platforms, any social media platform. And specifically in this case, the emphasis might be video. In this case, the emphasis might be video. Because the examples I'm going to look at really focus on the video component of it. So for somebody who is a creator professional, for them, content is a leverage point for their expertise to be known, whether that is for business or for them personally in their personal career. So they don't have to own a business or run a business, but they either have to own a business or run a business, or they have to be creating content to help their career or help them get out there personally or be known for something personally. You can think of it as the monetize your mind pathway. Monetize your mind pathway. So you already run a business, you have a 9-to-5, you might have a consultancy, you might be doing a trade, you might have a degree, and the content is just a bridge to get to be known for what you want to be known for, to get your knowledge or the thing that you want to be known for, or your business to be known, to get it to more people. That's what the content is being used for. So it's just a bridge to an end, either to make you more well-known or to make your business more well-known, obviously, which would then translate into more opportunities for you or more revenue for your business. So let me give some examples so people will better understand. And I'm going to give examples from both the global scale, and of course, I'm going to bring it back home to Trinidad and Tobago specifically. Right. So we have examples of that, because some people will be familiar with some of the people I'm going to talk about when we talk about being a creator professional, right?
Yeah, I think an example will kind of solidify it for me.
Okay, good. So a global example, and some people may know about this guy, is someone called Ali Abdaal. He's a productivity YouTuber. Are you familiar with Ali Abdaal?
Probably if I look at him, not by his name.
So he is a doctor who turned an entrepreneur. He has like 8 million followers across social media, and he writes books. He shares ideas and strategies and tools for building the life that you love. Really, truly window of productivity. So he
Right.
started as a doctor full time in the UK, and he began making videos about studying productivity and tech. So he was trying to help other, I guess, postdoctoral students on how to study. So he made content about that, but he was already a developing professional in his field, and he made content about that field. And so that's how we got into being a content creator and doing stuff on YouTube.
And if you know him, well, you know how I am, face first, name after. So yeah,
Right.
so I'm looking at him, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And he's quite popular too. He's one of the more popular YouTubers when it comes to productivity. And in general, people like him. You know, there's some darlings of the YouTube space. He might be considered one of those of the YouTube space. Right. And so in this case, he took what he knew, how to learn fast and work efficiently, and he started teaching that through YouTube. And of course, many years later today, he runs a multi-million-dollar business with online courses, a podcast, and much, much more things, right? And so that is how he took his expertise and then turned it into a content career. So he was expertise first. So he started off with the thing that he knew. He went to school, he studied, and out of that, he then turned it into a career. Now technically, him at this point is more of the other side, but that took years to develop. So he started off in one place at first, which is how to study as a doctor, was helping students. He was creating content around that. And then, of course, he transitioned across into a different type of creator now. So that's something to take note of.
Let's say pure Ali Abdaal, when he's starting, you would put him in the category of creator professional.
Yeah, I would.
So he's a professional first and a creator to support the professional. That's what it means?
Correct, yeah. So he's a professional first, and he creates content to support his professional career. And so that's...
Or another way we could say it, he's expertise first. And he uses content creation to promote his expertise, whether it's personal or business, but that's what he's doing.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why he is a creator professional. It's kind of it's flipped the opposite way, but he is a professional who creates. So he's a creator professional. Yeah. All right. So let's look at a local example, one of which you will be very, very familiar with, because we actually did some content with this person via another creator professional we know, Jared Best Mitchell, who has come up on the podcast already. And this person is Sorvete. Now, I'm saying the business name first because the business name is the name that is on all of the social media platforms.
Right.
So who is Sorvete, or what is Sorvete? Sorvete is an online ice cream shop. It serves artisan frozen desserts. And just for some statistics, Sorvete has roughly 219,000 followers and subscribers across Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. The owner of Sorvete is a young lady by the name of Renee Andrews, who was recently married. Congrats, Renee. She said for herself, she spoke about this many times, including the time that we recorded the podcast, we produced the podcast for Jared interviewing her. She said that she used digital media to transform her brand, boost her visibility, and drive her business growth. She has said that in many different forums. So we've heard her say it firsthand. We were in the room when she said that she first started the business, and then she used her content to drive business, right? And all of this came out of when she first started. So the origin of Sorvete is that she had a friend, and it was a very good friend of her best friend, actually. Her friend was urging her to slow down and do the thing that she loved doing. And then her friend suddenly passed away, right? So she really took it to heart. And she transitioned from being a professional chef to creating this eggless artisanal frozen dessert line because ice cream, as she said many times, brought her joy. So because of this thing happening with a friend, and because she was being overwhelmed by being a creator in other spaces and being a professional chef, she decided, hey, let me slow the whole thing down, do what I love. I love ice cream. Let me go and do that. So she started the ice cream business. But then she had a turning point, and the turning point was where one day she was totally exhausted after an 18-hour kitchen shift. She was working in the kitchen. She's totally exhausted, making ice cream and whatnot. And on that particular day, she really said, oh God, and she forced herself to post a video about all of the work that she had done that day. Instead of skipping that particular day, because she really wanted to skip that day of content creation, she forced herself to post the video about it. And the next morning she woke up and all of her ice cream had completely sold out. Right. All of the ice cream on the website had completely sold out. The post that she put up went viral, and it basically turbo boosted her business at that point. And so she was able to leverage that to continue to grow her business as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So she has been using content, and she's a prolific poster of content. And now she has an employee creating content. So she's not the only person on camera. I don't know if she has a social media person, but I guess the people inside of her business are all kind of social media people because you see them on camera. And so her business is not just manufacturing these ice cream, these artisanal desserts, but her business is also creating all this content, this marketing material for the growth and the promotion of the business. Mm-hmm. So social media just didn't grow her brand visually, it grew it financially. As a result, Sorvete expanded from a small passion project into a full manufacturing facility, and her business continues to grow in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, checking out some of her stuff, yeah. Like the logo a lot. I didn't realize, I didn't check out the logo the last time we met her.
Blue and pink with the ice cream inside the V, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other examples, international examples of the way she did it are people like Legal Eagle, who's a YouTuber. Mm-hmm. Some people might know him. He is a lawyer first, and he began to make content to support his legal practice. And of course, the ever famous Dr. Mike, he's also an American YouTuber who is a doctor. He's a licensed doctor. He still practices. In fact, he says that he has to continue to practice because practicing gives him the ability to stay on the pulse of his career, his industry, so that he can make good content. So he is going to continue to practice. And so he is also a professional who creates content, right? And for those who are listening to us who may be a professional, you may have a business, here's your takeaway, right? If you run a business, you are a professional with a specific expertise that you want to be known for, content is the pathway to be known, right? You don't really need millions of views. You just need the right views from the right people. So if you run a business or you're a professional, you might be an employee, you can make your own content if you want. Once it's not, some companies might have policies about what the employees could say about the business, but you can make content about your expertise on your own so that you will be known. Of course, one of the reasons for that is that if you want to change jobs or you want to launch a career in a different way or you want to get into business, you still want to have your presence established in the expertise that you are leaning into so that people know you for that. So you are known for that particular thing, right? And at that point, you're not trying to be an influencer. You don't need millions of views. You just want the right people to see what you're doing and you want to get known for that specific thing. Yeah. So that's how you want to approach it.
Questions. How do you know which path to take yourself? And you just mentioned influencers. The second part of the question would be, what's the difference between what we are talking about now and an influencer in terms of a content creator, as we would normally call them?
That's a good question. And I think the influencer question will get answered when I go down to the second part, because the second set of people who are creating content are the content first creators or the professional creators. And those most times fall under the category of influencers. because
Right.
even though you can have a career and you can be an influencer in this particular career, if that particular career, if your career as a content creator stops, you could still work. Influencers, many times when their influencing career stops, they are not a professional in any particular thing. They are a professional influencer. Although you can be both. You can be someone who is an influencer in a particular field, like financial advice, like insurance, like being a mechanic. You can be an influencer in that particular field. And basically, influencer means you have a following and you can influence a bunch of people. That's what it really means at the core. Although one could argue the power of the influencer is being eroded and reduced every single day now because of lack of trust. So that's another story we could talk about. Yeah. Influencers were at their peak a few years ago, maybe just before the pandemic. They were at their peak. And of course, now it's a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, those trust issues will always keep coming back to bite you. I am very distrustful of a lot of things. So my favorite question on social media now is this an ad?
Right. Yeah.
I look at piece of content and then I'm like, wait, hold on. Is this an ad? Because it's happening a lot.
I think it's gone to the point where now you just come out and say it's an ad. Just make it addy. Don't start with "Hey guys." Anytime anybody starts a piece of content with "Hey guys," I'm just scrolling past. Don't make it seem like you're trying to talk to me because you have something good to share with me other than trying to run an ad. But that's just me personally. I am saying for some people, they don't mind. But for me, I don't want to see no ad. By the time I realize it's an ad disguised as content, I'm scrolling past. Unless it's like it doesn't put the product directly in your face. Unless it's really, really captivating in that way. And there are ways you could create ads to get that done, which is probably another topic we could explore at a different time.
Yeah. That would be an interesting topic. Because a lot of what is happening now, it's hard to tell. I am one of those people, I like to know if I'm being advertised to. And I don't mind advertising. I don't mind promotion. Something like product placement. For years, there's been product placement in movies. That doesn't throw me off in any way because I know it's being paid. It's a paid product placement. Majority of the time, it's going to be a paid product placement. And if you do it skillfully, like as the film producer, it makes sense for it to be in the movie. So like Fast and Furious is a good example. The brands of cars in that movie depended on the length of time you had on the screen, depended on your level of paid sponsorship inside of the movie.
Yeah.
So if you look at Fast and Furious 1 and 2, the brands that you see, Mitsubishi, Honda, you see them more. That's because they did paid product placement, which I am okay with. I'm fine with that. But a lot of social media now, they're even creating something that I don't know if the best term for it is like an anti-ad. They actually criticize the thing, but it's designed for you to then click and go and search it up and generate a lot of traffic for this thing because they either criticize it or cast it in a negative light or say something bad about it. And then people get more interested in actually looking for the thing. So I know that's a little bit of a side quest, but we'll talk about that some other episode.
But it's a good point. And they kind of talk about it as people, like brands being self-aware. So they create an ad basically making themselves look bad, self-deprecating. Yeah, so that's one approach you could take. But even people are getting sensitive to that too. So, just run the ad. Just say, just act like it's an ad. Don't try to hide it or try to cover it. All right, so let's talk about path 2. I know we've been talking about this for a while. Let's talk about path 2 of becoming a content creator. Let's talk about the content first creator or the professional creator. The content first creator or the professional creator. So the concept behind this is that these are your traditional creators. They start with a camera, an obsession to create, or just a desire to entertain or build a community. So they want to do their thing. So this is the audience first, possibly business later path. And when I say possibly business later is because a lot of these creators, don't start in their mind with a way to monetize. They don't start in their mind with, okay, I'm going to make money off of this. They start because they like doing it. And that is why a lot of these creators fall into the category of entertainment creators. They think they're funny. They think they could entertain people. They like doing silly things with their time.
Hopefully they're funny.
Hopefully they're funny, and they don't just think they're funny. Because there are many of them, and only a few of them are actually funny. And over time, they develop and they get more traction because people get to know them for this type of humor or this type of comedy or this type of way that they communicate. And people start to follow them for that particular purpose and for that reason. And they get a following. And only when they start to get a following, they realize, but wait now, I have all these people who are watching my content all the time. How can I then now turn this into a money-making thing? And that's when they realize that they can make money off of this thing. But at that point, they haven't really built any infrastructure, or they didn't have a plan or a strategy as to what they were going to do with all the attention that they got. So they have all this attention and they have no idea what to do with it or how to monetize it. And that's the problem that many of those people face when they start to get traction or they get bigger. And recently there's been a lot of controversy surrounding what people will just generalize as vloggers. I don't know how they got the name vloggers. Locally, because of political affiliations and all those different things, where their pathway to monetize their attention was to become politically aligned, which is a different story altogether. But you can see the problem. The problem is that they had a ton of attention and they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to make money off of it. And so that they found a way that for them was the easiest pathway for a payday. Right. So, but that's another story. That's one way you could do it. Nothing is wrong with that, but that's a choice that you'll make that will have impact. It will have an effect on your audience thereafter. Right. So these people don't start with a product. They don't start with a business. They start with a perspective. They start with a personality, or they can start with a storytelling ability. That's what they start with. These professional creators, that's what they do. Right. And it doesn't mean that they can't have a job or they don't have a 9-to-5. What it means is that, and they often do, and there's a reason for that, which I'll get to just now. And they often do, but they're not using their creative pursuits to promote that. So somebody could be working as, let's say they're working as a hotel manager, but their content has nothing to do with hotel management. Their content is some kind of entertainment content, or maybe there's somebody who's obsessed with sports, with football, and they're making funny football content. Has nothing to do with them being a hotel manager, but they're making this content on the side. So the content that they're making is not connected to the career or the business that they're building. Right. So it's two separate and distinct things. And the reason these people often have to have jobs is because it makes them no money at first. It makes them zero money at first. In fact, one of the people who I want to talk about a little bit later on is one of our biggest creators, if not the biggest creator on the list right now who has done that is Certified Samson. Mm-hmm. And he spoke about the fact that he was doing this for 7 years and didn't make any money. He was creating for 7 years and did not make any money. But thereafter, he found ways to monetize. Now he has the ice cream shop. Now he has lots of sponsorships, brand deals. He has an ongoing sponsorship with Fruitopia. And yeah, he has ongoing things happening that he's making money from. But at the scale that he is at, that he can do that. Many people don't reach to that scale. But there are different ways to find sponsorships and so on. But that's the scale that he is at, and that he will pull in those types of sponsorships and those types of brand deals for his content.
What would you say delayed the onset of attracting advertisers? Because to me, advertisers only care about one thing, right? Exposure, the number of potential customers that you could put me in front of. That's how advertising has always been sold. If you increase the number of eyeballs, you can charge more, basically. Whether it's television, radio, magazines, all of these different content types, media types, was always designed around how many people can I put your brand in front of.
Yeah.
So the question with Certified Samson or anybody else, like in that 7 years, was there a tipping point where his followership exploded, or was it the advertisers that were late to the game in realizing, oh, this is a option for us. These are real views, these are real people, and this is a real option for us to put our brand in front of our target audience. Which one of those two things do you think happened? Was it the advertisers and business people late to the game, or the number of followers only came later on in that 7-year period?
That's a really excellent question. And the reason it's an excellent question is because it could be neither of those reasons. I think one of the main reasons that these things happen is because the creator themselves just doesn't know how to make it work. Right. The creator doesn't have a strategy. The creator has not sat down and thought about, now that I have all this attention. So remember this old song, now that we found love, what are we going to do with it? Mm-hmm. Remember that song? That's the dilemma the creator has. Now that I've found all this attention, what I'm going to do with it. Now, there came a time when agencies and food businesses and everything would see creators online. And if they saw you often enough, they would say, that's a good person to get to promote our products. And they will look for smaller influencers. And you know these sizes, you have micro, nano, and they have all these different sizes of what people would call influencers. But oftentimes, creators don't have a strategy as to how to get their brand deals, their sponsorships, and how to monetize. That's not something that is heavily taught locally. There is a guy called Justin, trying to remember his name, but he wrote a book on sponsorships, essentially, on how to get sponsorships. But he's an American guy, and he wrote a book on how to get sponsorships as a content creator, as an influencer, how to maintain those things, how to write contracts, how to do deals, all of those different things he wrote on. And so even if you have all the attention, and it doesn't have to be a ton of attention, you could start monetizing as small as 5,000 followers if you want to, depending on the type of product that you want to promote.
Yeah, I certainly know a couple of what we would call micro-influencers who can monetize and have monetized their small audiences. Because of so much fragmentation taking place, sometimes the impact on a particular target audience can only really come from micro influencers or micro content creators with 3,000, 5,000, 4,000 followers.
Yeah, and that's a fact. That's a fact that sometimes it's a good match in between the sponsor and the influencer or the content creator. Because if you have to go on, let's just say, get a sponsorship deal with Kyle Boss, you might not have the capital to pay him to sponsor your product, right? Because he is, I think he's done a deal with Church's Chicken. Church's Chicken is international. He might be calling a certain amount of tens of thousands of dollars to do this deal over a period of time. It might be a year-long contract once he's consistent with putting out this content. A small business might not have the money to pay Kyle Boss to do that. And so there has to be a match in between the needs of your business and the ability to pay this influencer. And of course, they, would have a certain reach, and their reach will match what you could afford to pay. And so it all balances out after a while. Yeah, so that's a possibility. Mm-hmm. So lastly, let me look at an example, a very interesting example that I think epitomizes kind of like both pathways in one person. And you would know this guy because I think you did business with him already. His name is Zach Bermudez. You probably got some knives sharpened by him back in the day.
Right. Yeah, well, not so much back in the day, but yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, some years ago, right? I have Zach's number. I messaged him this morning asking him for some details about his process, but he didn't respond in time. So I'm going to assume some things, and I did some research about him online. So Zach is an interesting case. Zach, as of last year, May last year, posted his last video on his business account, which is Zach Sharpening. He sharpens knives, right? Mm-hmm. That was his business. Now, I don't know if the business still exists. He hasn't posted a video in an entire year. So this is Juma. I'm interrupting the podcast for an important update on this particular segment. Zach responded right after we were finished with the podcast. So I have his response here and I'll read it for you. Zach's message said, Zach Sharpening was rebranded to Sharp Shop last year. The business has always been active, but I slowed down on creating content for it while I built a website for sharpshoptt.com ep.16.com. He also added, it does well enough from word of mouth and from Google for me to ease off of it while I spread my focus. Funny you should bring it up now, as I'm actually about to announce the new website. And I did actually go check the website out. It's launched, it's public, and it's a pretty cool website. He also said in his message, while I'm not aggressively pursuing brand deals, yes, I still work with many brands, usually those corporate clients that reach out. Most clients actually reach out to me instead of the other way around, as I'm known to be very easy to work with, professional, and I always keep them very satisfied. So that's Zach tooting his own horn a bit there. I haven't worked with Zach, or I haven't been a client of his, so I believe everything he's saying here. He also adds, my goal is instead to use my platform to mainly promote my own business apart from Sharp Shop, one which is currently in development. So he has something secret in development right now. It's a large project, so I estimate the launch to be next year. Hope this helps. So that is what Zach shared with us, and I wanted to put that context in before you hear the rest of the podcast. Now, back to the podcast. But he has doubled down on his entertainment or his comedy platform, which is Zach B, or Zach Bermudez, or Zach BDZ. So across Instagram and TikTok, he has about 201,000 followers. And in recent times, some of his content has really been blowing up. And I did meet him at the Youth Awards, and he was in the category of social media influencer. So he was even pitching his content for that as well. And he has good entertaining content, right? But he's a real strange case because he did both, right? Many years ago, he started his business, I think in 2000 and when was it? I can't remember the year he started the business, but it was many years ago. So he had a business called Zach Sharpening. He sharpens knives, supplied high-end kitchen knives, and he used his content to drive that business. And I assume he was doing that, right? I didn't get to talk to him to confirm that, as I said, but he was using content to do that. Mm-hmm. But I did talk to him in his comments some time ago, and he said, I thought that's what, actually, in fact, did talk with him in the comments and asked him if that is what he was doing. And he said, no, he wants to be a full-time content creator. Right. That's what he was saying at the time. Right. And this was a couple of years back, at least like a year ago, maybe more, when I asked him that question in the comments of his piece of his content. Yeah. And so it is quite possible that you could have a business, run the business, use content to make the business grow, and then decide, well, I'm not going to be that anymore. I'm just going to be a full-time professional creator as opposed to being a creator professional. So he switched from being a creator professional to being a professional creator, somebody who's full-time in content and using that content as a way to leverage brand deals, etc. So that's what he switched to as far as my observation goes.
Right. I would be interested to find out what are some of the motivations behind some of those switches. If one was already taking up a primary space inside of their life, or if there's a hard switch that took place. One of the international examples it makes me think of is Chris Do. So Chris Do had a marketing agency, design agency, and he started creating content to promote the design agency and pushed heavy into educational type content, only to then become primarily an educational content creator and even beyond online content. And so much so that the agency actually became moved into second place behind his educational endeavors. So it would be interesting to find out where and how that shift takes place. And it's fine because life change, people mature. So you're dealing with individuals and you're not dealing with robots. So if somebody matures and they realize, this thing feels more like me at this stage of my life, I wonder if it's a conversation like that or a conversation like, I've always wanted to do content creation, but right now I'm sharpening knives. So I always wanted to be an entertainer, but right now is this thing. So let me do that. Until you realize, I can mix the two. And then you kind of follow the path of the one that's getting the most amount of energy and the most amount of traction in your life.
Chris, those are a great example. Thinking about it, I would argue that he just switched the type of business, that he went from one business to another business. In between there, it was looking like he was going to become a full-time professional creator. But then, obviously, he has the future, which is his education platform. So he uses the content he creates to promote that, to educating creatives and so on. So he had an interesting switch. But but first it was really focused on his agency. Like the first set of content I saw from him was how to build a brand, which was him building a brand for a craft beer business, right? And building their websites and building all
very
sort of different
interesting
things.
series.
Yeah, it was a really good series. And I don't think they ever did another series like that again. But the idea was to use this content to drive business in that area, and I don't know if it worked or not, but now he doesn't do that anymore. Doesn't seem like he's in the business. Actually, he's not in the business anymore. He's in a different type of business. He's getting into fashion now and that sort of different things. So that's another thing. Daniel Nelson on Facebook said, I believe complacency plays a major role in the reason that most small creators stay small. It's rough out here, Daniel. It's really rough out here.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's rough. It's the market. It's a combination of efforts, consistency, whether you're good or not. Sometimes you're bad. You're just not cut out for that career. And then there's a lot of serendipity, there's a lot of luck, and who knows you type of thing. Because if every creator who was good would make it, then we'd have a nice batch of great creators. But we tend to like the most popular ones, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
I think Daniel has a point, but one of the things I would counter with is a combination of different things that kind of drive success inside of a sector like this. And it's highly competitive, very, very competitive. And there are limited advertising dollars to go around. There's only so much corporate can do in terms of utilizing content creators, utilizing sportsmen and sportswomen and actors and musicians and soca artists. There's only so much they can do. And what they're really looking for is somebody who can stand out. And you might be pretty consistent and you still don't stand out. Maybe you haven't hit your stride. Maybe you're doing the wrong thing for your personality. There are a number of different things that go into play when it comes to success. But certainly persistence and consistency, as you're indicating, will drive your success. Whether you are whether you're a creator professional or professional creator, that level of consistency is important.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I agree that consistency is key. And I agree with you from that perspective, but it doesn't always match. The effort you put in does not always match the results. And that is the sad thing about any endeavor of this kind, whether it's business, whether you're getting into content, it doesn't always match. So, there is a percentage with which you can do all the right things and still fail, in that sense. So
yeah, for sure.
What are you gonna do? All right. So let me bring this to a close here. So let's talk about what I want you to take away. Right. The takeaway for this particular section is that a professional creator will monetize through attention, through ads, through sponsorships, through things like merchandise and mass market products. And their particular superpower isn't necessarily a hard technical skill or a qualification, but it's something like it will be entertainment, empathy, storytelling, and consistency. So that's what they will win on. Mm-hmm. And let me just do a quick comparison between the two, the expertise first creator or the creator professional versus the content first creator or the professional creator. So the starting asset for the creator professional is a proven skill or professional background. And for a professional creator is passion for media, community, storytelling, things like that. Right. The North Star metric for a creator professional is like conversion, which is business conversion, authority, and to solve a problem. And for a professional creator, it's retention and reach. Did they watch? Did they share? Are they having an experience with my content? The biggest trait for a creator professional is clear and actionable things, and they're most likely educational a lot of the times, although they can be edutainment driven. But for the professional creator, they have to be engaging and charismatic in order to grow their audience. And finally, the primary trap for a creative professional is overcomplicating their production and fearing the camera. Because if you're a professional, you're not doing this as a creator first, so you have to learn how to do it. And for the professional creator, their primary trap is burnout and struggling how to figure out the monetization part of the business, how to actually make money from all this attention that I have gotten. And for your homework, if you're wondering which category you fall into, just look at your current life. Do you have a skill that you've spent years building or honing? Or do you like to entertain? Do you have an itch to create, to entertain, to curate a community? See which one of those you fall into, and then you can choose your lane and make the decision that way. Yeah.
Do you have an example of a business or person who does both of these at a high level?
At the same time, I don't know of anybody locally who does both. Zach would be the closest person, but as I said, he has stopped putting out his business content for the past year, so I don't know if that business is still going. Maybe it is in the background. But I mean, one could argue now that some of these professional creators have turned into creator professionals. Like, for example, Kyle Boss now has a coffee shop and he works in a coffee shop. He has a business. Technically, like, for example, Junior Lee, he's a stand-up comedian, so that is his business. You know, he makes sketches online and all those different things, you know. So I can't think of somebody who does that at that level, who does both, but maybe there is. Maybe I need to do some more research. Thanks again for staying to the end. You can read all the summary articles and get all the latest episodes at itsgoodtorelate.com.